Hello, and welcome to another action-packed, fun-filled, and exciting episode of Geeky Voices Carry, the podcast that is part of the problem. With me, as always, are my fellow. I don't know what the hell do we call ourselves? Podcasters, I guess is the. That
We
just
could
seems
just
like a
call
lame.
us
That seems like a lame kind of.
Fellow geeks. I don't know. That's even worse, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
aficionados.
Aficionados.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. All right. From my left
Fonts
to
of
right,
enlightenment.
I think it would be founts.
No, it's fonts.
So, from my left to right tonight is David Rollins,
Hello.
about whom I will not make a token Canadian joke.
Oh, well,
No.
thanks,
Really?
eh?
What the
Yeah.
hell?
First.
Yeah,
Merci
I'll
beaucoup.
save it. We still have 45-ish minutes to go.
That's
Fair enough.
So, Josh Thompson.
Yeah.
Was that a surprise, Josh? I'm sorry. Should I have prepared you more?
No. That's no.
And of course, Stacy Delorfano.
Hello.
So, since this was kind of your suggestion, I'll let you phrase the topic, Stacy.
All right. So I think it started on Friday. There was,
We probably don't need to name names.
there was a lot of conversation about a couple of interesting subjects. I don't think it started out to be about these subjects, but it kind of ended up about these subjects, and I thought that they were interesting enough to actually talk about. And there's two things that kind of came up. We'll start with just one, and that is, do game designers and game developers who are successful at what they do and who have an audience, do they have some sort of obligation to other game designers, particularly those who may be struggling or may not actually have a wide audience to spread all of their games to? Do they have an obligation to help those people out, to give them exposure and to show them everything that's going on and to, help them get seen by other people? And then there's also a social justice aspect to that, but I'll kind of start there. And I think the idea about it is that there's a lot of games coming out. We are at this stage where pretty much anybody can make a game. Pretty much anybody can get it published. You don't really have to have a lot of skill in order to do it. And it's very much like the old DIY kind of, D&D days, but with a much broader subject matter, I guess, much broader set of games, and a delivery system via the internet, so that we can do the things that we used to just do in our little secular, or little, not secular, our little
Secluded.
secluded, that's it, gaming
Our
clique.
niche.
Yeah, that it can actually spread to the rest of the world. So,
Spread
Well,
the-
I thought the fracas started with a pretty good idea of why even make games if you're not sure anybody's going to play them. Like, what's the purpose of making
Yeah.
a game?
there's so many games out there. Why would you make a game if
Yeah, exactly.
I'm against the making of further games. I'm just going to say that right now, right here. I know it's
God.
controversial. We've hit the end of the internet, and I think we've run out of games, and that's it. I think that's the last word on the topic. We don't need
All
it.
right.
Thank you, and good night.
Good night, all.
Wow, shortest podcast ever.
Yeah. Okay.
Should submit that to the Ennies. So, I think if people are making games that they don't see out there, or they're usually a game comes out of you've hacked whatever you're playing so much while playing with a group, you decide that to get the experience that you've got, it's better just to start from scratch and rewrite your game that you're already playing, essentially. I think that's how it happens a lot of the time. And if you're writing to create the best experience for you and your group, then you can't really lose, even if nobody else ever wants to play it.
So that's how I've always approached everything. Well, actually, I take that back. That's not how I've always approached everything, but it's how I've learned to approach everything over the course of kind of joining the internet gaming community. It's just a weird kind of place, but I got to the point where I make games, the games that I make, and I'm making only one right now, and it's taking me forever, and I don't care about that, is because I'm making the game that I want to play and that I want to see out there. And even if nobody else likes it, at least I've created something that I like.
But here's the beauty of the internet. Because it gives you so much contact with so many different people, you should be able to find other people like you that want to play that game.
Mm-hmm. I don't think playing the game is the problem here, though. It's getting other people to play the game.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you connect with the right people, if you can find your group, you can find your larger group out there.
Okay. Yeah,
Then
that's not a problem then. So what is the problem?
Well, the problem actually is that, well,
Stacy is the problem.
I am the problem, actually.
Okay.
Just
Well, that's solved. Cool.
Hey, bam, we did it twice.
The problem ends up being that not everybody has 2,000-3,000 people who follow them. Not everybody has a big enough following where they can say, hey, I'm making this game, and who is going to like it? Because there's so much noise out there that the littler ones get lost in it.
The problem is that the leaderboards aren't really doing well for some people.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's, tough titty.
And there seems to be kind of a feeling that it's up to the people who do have those audiences to make sure that the people who don't have those audiences get them, especially if they happen to be part of an underserved demographic.
I don't know. That sounds pretty un-American to me.
Yeah, there's not much freedom.
That's your Canadian, so that's okay.
Yeah, but you know what? As an outside observer, just hear me out. Just hear me out. Right? These people that are in a position where they could say pump a game or a Kickstarter or whatever, and it would immediately have an effect. They have spent 10 to 20 years cultivating their audience. They're following their group. They've grown this. They've put a lot of work into it, and they've become successful game designers to whatever degree that you can be in the industry as it stands right now. For them to endorse a game that they're following wouldn't like would actually damage their brand. Okay?
Really? You think so?
I think so. Because here you've got this group that like the things that you're doing. If you say, hey, I think you guys would like this thing, and nobody does because it's the opposite of what they like, then the next time you put something out, they're not going to look at it the same way. They're going to think twice.
This is sort of a corollary to what David was just saying, because I remember the amount of grief from both sides that Monty Cook took when he did his World of Darkness book, because
I heard a little about that.
And I mean, it's not exactly the same sort of thing, but it plays into what David was talking about, because it was like it pissed off World of Darkness fans, because how dare you do a World of Darkness book with the D20 system, and it just, I think it just sort of confused D20 fans, but who weren't used to all the angst and melodrama.
Do you think that Monty Cook's brand lost some sort of traction because of that?
I think it did it for a short time, but then it's like, he did some book of something might, and everyone was happy again.
Yeah.
That's probably true. Yeah.
You know what? When I first got into gaming, people didn't really follow gaming personalities because they didn't really exist. I mean, I knew who Mark Rindot-Hagen was, and I think and Gary Gygax, and I think that's really about it. And nobody else really mattered. You picked up the game for the game, not because of the person who made it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I still do it that way myself.
Well,
yeah,
I mean,
I do too.
That's actually a big part of why when I did my Dorkland roundtables, that was a big part of the reasoning behind doing those, was because a lot of people didn't know who the hell any of these people looked like. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, and so I did a series of interviews so you could. I mean, even Monty Cook. A lot of people, know who Monty Cook is, but could you pick him out of a crowd? Maybe.
Yeah, you don't really understand how cuddly he is until you see him in person.
Yeah. I think it's like been a shift in how things have gone from the people who make games are these faraway people that you don't know and that you're probably never going to know, to actually being based on a personality. I follow this person because they make games that I like, or I follow that person because they make games that I like.
Well, I think a lot of that comes out of the blogosphere and how that's been used, how you develop your audience out of your personality. So you put a lot of yourself out there, and then people kind of are attracted by that, and then people who are attracted by your personality also find the games that you produce interesting, because they're already interested in what you have to say. So of course they're going to be interested in what you want to play. It makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like if you meet an author and you find them really annoying, don't read their books.
Yeah.
Because you won't be able to.
Yeah, been there, done that. And,
Oh yeah.
I got the book credits for it, so. Yeah, that's one of the nice things. If an author annoys you, there's always store credit that can be gotten from it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I didn't realize I was going to throw back to that. Sorry.
That becomes more complicated when the people who make the game are more than one person, as is a particular type of game created by a particular person who's part of a particular larger group that I don't really care for, but I'm still playing the game because...
You can just say World of Darkness.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm talking about.
It's not?
No. Well, that one I quit altogether because of that reason. You're right. That's exactly that reason. The people who are writing it now I don't like.
So, did you quit because you don't like the people, or did you quit because their authorial voice makes the games unpleasant?
I quit because the choices that they made to update the rules were bad, or were choices that I wouldn't have made, and it made it really clear what direction they were trying to go in, and I didn't like that direction. So because I didn't like that direction, and I didn't like the people that were involved in it, it was enough for me to say, okay, I'm done.
So then you're just supporting the idea that people who you don't like are probably going to make a game that you don't like.
Yeah, that actually, I was hoping that it would be different. Actually, when I opened it up, I was hoping that I would like this despite that, and I couldn't. I tried very, very hard, actually.
And I don't know that it's always that way. Certainly, there's game designers I don't necessarily like, but I really enjoy what they've done. But I think in a rules light game, it's easier to get away with being a douchebag and making a game that people who don't like you would like. I think the more you put into the game, and the more specific you get, and the more of yourselfness that you put into it, the more likely your personality is going to influence whether or not people like it.
But should it?
Well, it's good. Well, why not? Look, if you're going to pour yourself into something, heart and soul, it's going to be your game, your fantasy heartbreaker, your sci-fi masterpiece, your grand opus, right? If you're making the game to rule all games or end all games or whatever, then it's going to have a lot of you in it. I don't think that you can avoid that, with the exception of the clones. Sorry, with the exception of the clones, which are already on a certain template. But even that, if you're making a good clone, you're adding something to it. You're giving it a spin, and that spin is you.
Yeah, it's like one of those the old saying about writing. It's every idea has already been written down, but it hasn't been your version of that idea.
Exactly. Yeah, that explains the OSR right there.
Yes, it does. Very much. So.
We finally did it.
We've explained the OSR. We win.
By accident. All right. Good night, everybody.
It's 3. Ooh, boy.
Wow.
mean,
This
that's
is the
one place
best
where you.
podcast ever. We've solved 3 problems in like less than 20 minutes. We rock.
So sexism and racism.
And we're never going to solve that.
Make more games.
Make more games.
And that's the second part of it, is why does everybody have such a bad reaction when it comes to saying make more games? If the games that exist that exist now right now are something that you don't like, I mean that's what I did. And it's not even that the games that exist now aren't things that I don't like. It's that I wanted a different flavor of things, and I always change certain things in different ways. And the game that I'm writing now is actually has a lot of the things that I generally change in games that I run because of that.
So
it's
you
like
saw something missing and you tried to fill it?
kind of. Yeah, actually, I think I did.
Okay.
In a way.
That sounds like a good idea. That sounds like a good solution.
Problem number 4 solved. Bam.
Bam!
No,
We're just banging them out tonight.
But yeah, I mean, there really is no excuse not to at least create a game or get someone to help create a game just because of how easy it is to do. I mean, even, you don't have to create a game so much as just use an existing rule set and just make a setting or a book that's compatible with it.
Like Savage Worlds.
Or Fate,
Yeah.
or something like Fate.
or Savage Worlds, because it's good for everything.
How hard is it to license Fate? Do you even have to?
It's
OGL.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just take
Well,
Fate.
and it's OGL or it's under like a Creative Commons share alike, which
Yeah. Yeah. So if there are any rule books out there that you like or settings that you like, take Fate, slap some free images that you like onto it, and go with it. There you go.
All right, that's what 5 problems we've
literally all you have to do.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think you have to do a
Put
little
it
bit
up
more
on
than
loop.
that. No, you have to do a little bit more than that if you want anybody to play it, though. Right?
Well,
You have to get it out there.
But
you mean
that's not
anybody
the-
isn't?
I don't know. I've actually run Cinnabar, so
Wow.
I wouldn't.
I don't know if I want to game with you anymore.
I don't know what that is.
I almost. They had a copy of the 2nd edition. I had 1st edition. back
Oh,
in
there's
college.
multiple editions of Cinnabar.
Yes, and actually 3rd edition got kickstarted. So
It
you
really
know,
did. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
really sounds like something that I would eat during my commute.
yeah.
It does. I think of cinnamon bears.
Cinnabar. Yeah, but
It's like a Cinnabon, but in bar form, so it's easier to eat on the train.
yeah, Cinnabar is the game for people that think that Riffs is for wimps.
Oh, this sounds awesome.
Wow. It says a lot.
Yeah.
So the game that's turned up to 11, they turn it up to 11?
They
They
turn
say
it up to
this
like
is actually
25.
1. And
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's the one game that I got rid of that I actually kind of regret having gotten rid of it. It was a terrible game, and it just was not very well done, and it didn't even feel like the writer had ever played it himself, despite telling to the contrary. But it was just, you could play like a shark with a laser in this game.
Like on your head?
It
You could be
in
a
number
shark.
of locations. Be a shark with a laser.
Wait, do you have to stay in the water or?
No, because that would cut back on your awesome if you had to stay in the water.
So you're a land shark with lasers.
a flying.
A flying land shark.
Flying land shark. With a frickin' laser beam on your head. That
Yeah.
sounds spectacular.
You could play a bear with a laser.
You could do that in...
I'm
what was
noticing a
it?
pattern here.
You could do that in Hulks and Horrors.
Yeah, play a bear with a laser. That's probably where they got it from, was Cinnabar, because Cinnabar originated the bear with a laser. So.
Yeah.
Where were we?
I have absolutely no idea.
We were talking...
We solved all our topics.
We
Okay.
were talking about how to get a game out there. And even I'm going to call it a celebrity endorsement. Just hear my air quotes, please. Even if you get an endorsement from somebody who is has an audience that really is outside of your audience, it's not necessarily going to help you. I mean, if you guys think back to Raji's crazy crowdfunding thing where he crowdfunded a bunch of adventures, Monty Cooks didn't fund. And when Monty Cook did his own thing that really resonated with his audience, he got like, what was it, $500,000
Yeah.
from Numenera?
Yeah.
But with Raji's, he couldn't even get like to do an old school adventure, and his idea was amazing. Just to do an old school adventure, he couldn't get $3,000. Like,
And
that's
he's
ridiculous.
a big old school fan too.
He is, but I think the audience that he's cultivated since 3.5 or 3x D&D, or his D20 stuff, simply doesn't want it.
No.
Or at least, such a minuscule amount of them want it, that he just couldn't bring them over. So he could, tweet about your OSR Heartbreaker all he wants. It's not going to do you any good. Because his audience doesn't care.
Well, it's not just that, but you have to remember that you have to have a really good product for people to care, regardless of whether or not they see it. And if it's just a heartbreaker, it's
well.
Sure
And the other thing when it comes,
I'm just using that as an example.
I know. But,
the other thing is that when you're dealing with a game as opposed to like say a comic or a novel or something like that, there's really only one way to read a comic. And, there's only really one way to read a novel unless you're reading Naked Lunch. But there are so many ways to play a role-playing game that, if you're writing a game that, appeals to a play style that isn't going to be of interest to somebody else's audience, it doesn't matter how much they stump for you.
Exactly. And like I said earlier, stumping for you could hurt them.
Yeah.
It could damage their reputation with their own following. And that's not good business sense, especially after spending 10 to 20 years building that following.
Yeah.
That's just crazy.
Now, I think there's I think that there's a place in gaming for the equivalent of the author blurbs from novels and things.
No.
But that's not what people want. They don't want just hey, I had a great time with this game, Monty Cook on the back of their book. So.
Yeah.
No, they seem to want like social media support.
Yeah.
Which just isn't fair to ask for.
No.
These people, first of all, these people are busy and they don't have time to like throw a bone to everyone who feels like they're downtrodden.
Well, and that kind of ties into the question I asked the other day, that I was really hoping would get more response. But the one thing that I always find fascinating about social media is how people are willing to try to drop celebrities into conversations.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, oh well, Neil Gaiman has nothing else to do with himself right now. I'm going to talk about yeah. So
Yeah.
it's almost a corollary to that, where it's like, it's like I can see saying, hey Neil, can you give me a retweet?
Yeah.
But
Well.
going, hey Neil, will you get people to buy my book? That's.
I don't know.
Well, even a retweet is, that's a little
brazen.
I don't know. I think so, but that's probably the closest to being just, offhand, just not really mattering.
I think if you're doing something cool and you're marketing well, you're gonna find your people.
Yeah.
But you have to market well. And here's the thing about marketing.
Marketing
It's hard.
It's hard. It's
Yeah.
really
It's hard,
really hard.
and it's time consuming, and
Right.
even if you have the skill to create a good game, you may not have the skill to create to market it. So maybe instead of begging people who have done it before to do it, maybe you should hire a professional.
Yeah, that's true.
Well,
That's hard because everybody's broke.
yeah.
I mean, nobody in game development has money.
Yeah.
Let's start with that reality. I think there's a lot of people out there, because I was one of them. I think there's a lot of people out there who have this misconception that they buy these slick books from these gaming stores and they think that the people who wrote them are making tons and tons of money.
No, there's one-man companies and three-person companies and very few. Most of them are like small executive groups supported by a bunch of freelancers who aren't making any money.
Right.
Well, and I mean, the other thing to remember is also that trying to do all those slick, fancy, high production value books is part of what put TSR out of business.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
And
Well,
I
no,
think
that's not what put them out of business. What
Well,
put them
that's
out of
part-
business was doing that and not charging enough for it.
Well, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
that usually helps.
Yeah, the business sins done by TSR is probably an hour in and of itself, and that's just the list.
Yeah, just a list. Exactly. Oy.
But yeah, I mean, and I mean, TSR is also, I think, another prime example of, I mean, just from the dawn of the industry, those were a bunch of people that didn't know how to run a business, and that's why TSR ended up in the straits it ended up in.
Yeah.
Pretty much, but yeah. Well, I mean, of course, you can kind of understand it back then since they were, breaking ground in an industry essentially. But I mean, these days, you don't really have the that as an excuse.
No.
Especially
I think that
the internet.
I think that pushes people away a little bit, though. I think they have this misconception that it's so hard to put together a game that in order to do it, you have to be able to produce a hardcover volume of something that's got these slick graphics in it and that's really well laid out and everything. They don't get that there was a time when we would pass games around via text files.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first version of Fate was sent around as a text file.
Yeah, so the extra.
I can remember the old World of Darkness Highlander game that went around as a text file.
Wow.
It was awesome.
By awesome, you mean crappy.
No, it was really enjoyable.
No, that was old World of Darkness. So
Old World of Darkness.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it was still crappy. I've seen the netbook.
Oh, probably. But.
Well, and the another thing that comes up in conversations, and I always thought this was interesting, was the number of people who think that game design is some sort of a skill. I mean, it is.
Yes. Yeah,
I mean,
that was
don't
another
get me
thing.
wrong, it is. I mean, there is some skill to it, but it's like like you become an expert in game design, and that makes you better at it than the plebes, so we should just pay you to do these things rather than do them ourselves.
Yeah, and I
What?
think game designers perpetuate that. It's
Yeah, some probably
if
do.
you look at the conversations that go on, and they're talking about things like you have to make sure that the players feel what their characters are experiencing, and you have to engage them, and they use all of these words that make it sound like there's this whole lexicon and jargon around game design.
That they're often using incorrectly because they weren't English majors.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, but to somebody who's coming new into it, it would seem really daunting. I don't know any of that stuff. What does that mean? And really what it means is my friends had fun, or I had fun, or it worked, or it didn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's really the one of the speed bumps that people have to get over is just that your ideas are just as good as the people who are being paid, and those listening, I'm using air quotes as I say paid.
Yeah.
They might be better.
Yeah.
Very few game designers and publishers actually do that as their full-time job. I mean, that's not really widely known or spread around. It's something that you kind of have to discover.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the ones that are doing it as their full-time job have been in the industry forever. Like you look at somebody like Monty Cook. Well, he worked in games, and then when he left, the big guys and went into business for himself, he took his following with him.
And he was working for Wizards for how many years? I mean,
quite a few.
Well,
Long enough
Long-time
to.
casual.
Monty Cook is. I mean, he's worked for. He worked for Wizards. I mean, he worked for TSR. He worked
Yeah.
for Hero. He worked for. I mean, he's worked for a
I mean,
lot
he's
of.
worked for a ton of people before he
Yeah.
worked for himself. I mean,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, and it's like we were talking about behind the scenes. Like, people look at the instant success of Fate, and they don't realize
Yeah.
that,
Fate's
there were
pretty
there
old.
were there were two free versions of Fate before Spirit of the Century came out,
Hmm.
and those guys spent a lot of time in getting people interested in their system and getting people interested in using it before they made the leap into doing something commercial when they put
And,
out Spirit of the Century.
Yeah.
and give the timeline of that. It was what, 2003, 2004 when it started? Or no, that was when Spirit of
No,
the Century came out.
that's about when I'm trying. It's got to be about 2003 when Spirit of the Century came out. I wish I had a copy of it.
It
in front
was
of me.
published in 2006, according to Wikipedia.
Oh, so it was
There you
later
go.
than I thought. But
Yeah, that makes sense.
the early versions of Fate came out, in the early 2000s.
Yeah, Fate says the publication dates 2003 and 2013. So, I mean, we're talking about something that's been growing for more than 10 years. I mean, that's just the publication date. This is something that, if I remember the stories right, that they said that they've been playing for a while before they ever came to publication, and that they've been working on as a game that they like to play with their friends.
Yeah,
Which
Fate
makes sense.
Fate started out as a way for them to do a non-diceless version of Amber.
Mm.
That would make
Mm.
sense.
And I mean, on top of it, it grew out of an already existing community of the people that were into
That's just-
fudge.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's the steps. I mean, you don't just go, bam, I'm a game designer and I'm going to make $10,000 on
Kickstarter.
on Kickstarter. No.
And that's.
And I think there's a lot of people. I mean, Josh can go along with this because he's seen the stuff that filters through the blog of people that are trying to kickstart, and it's like
Mm.
they aren't doing it. They're just like putting this game out there and going, well, why isn't anyone coming to see how cool my game is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, who'd you tell about it? Who'd you market to? What blogs are talking
Yeah.
about you?
Yeah.
You know,
Who'd you
like
playtest?
who'd you play test? And during your play test, were you talking about it?
Yeah.
How did you create interest during your development phase?
Right.
These are all things like, you talk about games, how most game designers have other jobs. Well, yeah, and most authors have other jobs too before they hit it really big, before they've got 3 or 4 novels and they're actually getting big enough advances.
Oh, more than 3 or 4 novels. Most authors go like maybe a dozen novels before they can
Right.
start hitting it.
Depending
Wow.
on what genre they're writing in, right?
Yeah.
So, but a lot of people who start new businesses or any creative venture, a lot of the time, they're not doing it full time unless they have some kind of funding. And if you're underfunded, chances are your business will fail.
Yep.
I mean, 90% of small businesses fail in the first year, and most of it is because they are undercapitalized.
Yeah. That's a hard one. It takes money to make money.
They don't even get
does.
to the undercapitalized point. They just don't really understand what it takes to, and in gaming, it's like, without even using the Heartbreaker label, because I freaking hate that.
I'm
What
going to
does
say it
that
again.
mean? Wait. What does that mean, Heartbreaker?
It's basically like a D&D clone.
Yeah, it's basically somebody who has said, "Hey, I've got the greatest ultimate fantasy RPG," and it turns out that if all they've ever done is play D&D and then switch to their homebrew, and then they've got a game that turned out to be exactly like AD&D Second Edition that they never realized because they didn't play it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, but crap, I forgot my point.
Sorry.
You started
But,
by
I mean-
talking about heartbreakers.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know. I'll probably get back to it. But I mean, and that's another thing that happens a lot is just that people don't really know the greater picture of things. You know, I have absolutely no clue why people ask me for advice as a game designer. But when they do, one of the first things I tell
'Cause you
them
make so
is,
many great games that you don't play.
yeah, no, it's settings that I don't play.
Right, settings.
We're
Sorry,
very
settings.
clear about that. I write settings that I don't play. But one of the first things I always tell them is know what's out there. You know, go out there and, you know, stop playing the game you've been playing for the last 10 years and look around and play other stuff and play games that
Or at least read it.
yeah, you know, play games that, you know, might not even sound interesting to you, because it might turn out that you're doing the exact same thing that they've already done, and you don't know it because all you've done for the last 5, 10, 15 years is play your house system.
Or worse, you haven't been playing.
Yeah.
You stopped
Oh.
playing, but you've still been thinking about gaming.
Yeah.
And you've come up with these great ways and this better system that's just been in the back of your head. And if you suddenly look around, you realize it's already been done.
Yeah.
6 years ago.
Even then, I don't know if that's a reason to dissuade people from doing their version of it. I guess if your goal going into it is I need to make money, I need to make something unique, I need to make something that's going to stand out from the crowd, then
Well, yes, but the problem
yeah,
is
maybe.
9 times out of 10, that's what people are saying their game is.
Well, yeah.
It's
And
new and original.
yeah, it's new and original, it's innovative, and it doesn't use
Inclusive.
classes.
That's the new marketing term, inclusive.
Yeah. I know how much you enjoy being included in things, Stacy.
Which is another question. You know, it's there was this kind of implicit idea going through there that those people who are creating games that are specifically designed to represent underrepresented segments of the gaming community have some sort of right, or people have some sort of obligation to give those people more attention because they're doing something that's socially acceptable, or that's supposed to change the way the status quo actually is. And I don't really buy that, because you see, I think people see something that is meant for an underserved portion of gaming, and they think no matter what it is, that it's going to be good, and that they need to support it because of that. And they don't give these things a critical enough look.
Honestly, I don't even think they think that they're going to be good, but they just think that supporting it will be good. I think that's
right.
what they really look for.
So they don't have to be good, they just have to be necessary.
Yes, because
Yeah.
there isn't enough of it.
I think that's more detrimental to these groups that feel underrepresented or underserviced than actually taking the time to make a good game.
Yeah, I think so too.
Probably, but yeah.
It's like I don't want to support somebody just because they're a woman. And I out of everybody, you know, I try to go out of my way to find really good female authors, female game designers, female artists, you know, female publishers, to actually support them. But the people that I'm looking for, I'm not just going to blindly say, oh, there's a woman doing something, I need to support what it is that she's doing. You know, you can get burned like that really, really easily and really quickly.
And like you said, there is a segment of the industry or non-industry or whatever you want to call it, that's what they're hoping
Fractured
for, is
gaming community.
Well, is that you're just going to support them because of their gender or their sexuality or their skin tone or whatever. And
I think that's not a good way to go. I think if you want to be taken seriously, I know I am the problem. I think if you want to be taken seriously, you should talk about the merit of what you're doing. I think that you should do something great, and even if your point of view is something that is valuable to the outcome, like the quality of the game, because your point of view, your position, okay, then it's fine to talk about it. Then that makes sense. But if who you are is not informing it, then you're just waving a flag, hoping to get attention for something that's totally unrelated. And I don't know that makes any sense at all.
You know, when I see, and this is, I don't know if this is a good thought or expression that I'm coming up with, but I have this kind of visceral reaction when I see something that a game that comes out and it says that it's specifically trying to break some sort of gender norm or stereotype, or that its goal is to be inclusive and all those kind of things. It actually steers me away.
Because
I
its
get less
goal is
interested.
not to be fun.
Right.
The goal
That's
should
it.
be to be fun, and those things should be important to it. There should be an important element of it. And certainly, the more of yourself you put into your game, in some ways, the better it is, but also the more specific the audience.
Mm-hmm.
And I should say that audience exists for the people who like
Absolutely.
those games, but it's not going to be everybody, and it's certainly not going to be as wide of an audience as a game that is
But it
just
might be.
everything.
But it might be.
I don't know about
If
that.
it's fun.
Do you know? Well, I get if it's fun, but if you look at fun games, there's a wide range of things that you can do with it. It's not narrowly focused on one type of thing.
I think those.
I think
games
that might be a bias.
Yeah,
I think
those
plenty
elements-
of
Probably is.
focused games that are really enjoyable.
I think those games just need to have those elements as a background that just works with it. They shouldn't be a focus. Those are
Well,
the kind of elements that you don't need to just like pull them out and stand them up. You just need to have them work into it seamlessly.
I think
Yeah,
if you're focused on breaking
Different, yeah.
something else, you are not
Yeah.
focused on building your game.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, it'll be a video game example, but Elder Scrolls Online
Perfect.
that has literally gay marriage in it, and it's just worked in seamlessly. It has strong female characters, and it has, all this armor,
Well-
like fully armored and everything, and
The thing is, though,
just
sounds awesome.
it doesn't actually have gay marriage. It just has marriage.
no,
And
Right.
it just
yeah,
lets
it's just
anybody
marriage.
get
Yeah.
married.
Good point.
And the
Yeah.
way, I mean,
That's why it's seamless.
yeah.
In fact, there is a quest in there that I did where you're helping a guy, help his husband, and it's just there. In fact, I almost kind of was like, wait, this is just happening naturally, and it just was.
Yeah, when it's really heavy-handed, it kind of misses the point.
And it does the opposite because
Yeah.
it calls attention
Yeah.
rather than just saying this is normal.
Yeah.
This is the way it should be.
Something I've said for a long time is I don't ever want to be liked simply because of my gender. I don't ever want to be liked simply because of my biology or those kind of things. I want people to like my personality. I want them to like my creativity. I want them to like the worlds that I create. Those kind of things. And as soon as what I am comes into play in any way, shape, or form, I start to feel really uncomfortable.
You
This
want
will
them to
apparently
like
be Stacy's last podcast.
Because she's the soul-eating ginger.
No. That's why she has the black and white filter on.
Right.
That's right. That's to protect us.
It's not quite black and white. I got a little bit of color in there.
You can see the dye.
Sepia.
Sepia. I could do that, I think.
But all right, why don't we wrap this up for tonight? I guess closing thoughts. What?
Are we doing something cool?
Yes, we're gonna get to that.
Oh, okay.
We're just wrapping up.
The
we're
topic.
wrapping up the topic. Yes. Go ahead, Stacy. What are your closing thoughts on the meandering mess of topics that we have done tonight?
I very much dislike it when anybody says that it's not necessarily the solution to all problems, but the solution to your problems often is make more games. Make the things that you like. I really dislike it when people say that and then other people attack them for saying that. And then other people say, well, you're not making the right games, or you're not supporting the right people, or you're not talking about the right issues, because it makes it be about the debate instead of about making games, and that really takes away from the entire industry, I think, to be honest, especially independent gaming. It's become a shorthand for independent gaming, indie games or story games, or they're games that's going to have some sort of agenda behind them, and that's not necessarily the case for all of them. But it's not. I don't like it. It doesn't sound right. So here's my advice to everybody out there: make more games. Make bad games. Make good games. Make games that nobody plays. Make games that everybody plays. Just do it because that's what you love to do. Don't do it because you want to have attention. Don't do it because you want to have popularity. Don't do it because you want to be rich, because none of those things are going to happen. If those things do happen to happen, then it's a wonderful surprise. And if they don't, then you've created something that you can be proud of. And that's really what should be the goal.
David?
Nobody owes you anything.
Says the socialist. Okay. Josh.
When it comes to your game, when it comes to your creative pursuits, when it comes to your games, when it comes to what you put out there, when it comes to any business venture, nobody owes you anything.
No, I agree completely.
Yeah.
Josh?
Okay. Well, unless lightning strikes, success comes slow and often hard fought. So, if you're not willing to fight for it, you're probably not going to get it, and you probably don't deserve it.
Ouch.
Ouch.
True.
Ooh,
True.
harsh words from
I
Josh.
thought I was being harsh,
Yeah.
but it's true. I mean, you look at the successes, man.
It's those damn millennials. They just have no souls.
Oh,
They don't. They
they
don't.
do so.
They
They're just-
don't. They don't.
Hmm.
That's because Stacy got to them already.
Yeah. The problem with the millennials is all my fault.
That's right. It's the gingers. They got them. They were the slow-moving elk.
All right, so let's move on to our something cool. On a positive note to end things, who wants to go first? I'll go. I'll ask this time rather than assign.
I'll go first.
All right.
The something cool for me this week is a Kickstarter. It's a few days old at this point. By the time this becomes a podcast, it'll be a week, but you'll still have 2 weeks to get in on it if you want. It's called Codemancer or Codemancer.
Is that how you
It's
say
a-
it in Canadian?
It's Codemancer. It's a game that is basically designed as a fun game, which is important. That is also a tool for teaching how to code. So they basically built anything you would get in a 101 coding class or a computer science class into this game. They've aimed it at kids 10 to 14. The avatar is a strong female protagonist that everybody plays, and I think this is awesome. I mean, this guy who's created it said, "Hey, look, there's a problem in my industry. It's becoming less inclusive instead of more. So I think if kids get exposed to coding and learn how to do it younger, it's going to change what it looks like in 10 or 15 years, and that's a good thing. That's a positive thing." So he created this fun game, and it's only $20 to get in on the and you get the game in every platform that he's making it for, and it looks like fun. I don't know how well it is for teaching code because I don't have any experience with that. But what I like about it is I have 2 girls, and this is a way that I can expose them to something different, something that I just don't know anything about. So I think that's really cool. I think the idea behind it is great. I think the Kickstarter looks like fun, and he's already funded. I think he was looking for $12,000 to get it finished, and he's at 23 right now. And like I said, it's only a couple days old. So, I mean, he's clearly making it all the way.
Awesome.
All right, Josh.
Well, let's see. I haven't really done much these past couple of weeks apart from college finals, and my free time has been taken up with Elder Scrolls, so I'll just go with that since we mentioned it earlier. And it's been about a month since its launch, Yeah, it's been a month since its launch, and it's still, now that I've gotten into it further, it's still really awesome. I totally recommend it for anyone who likes any kind of fantasy MMO. And yeah, it's all inclusive and it's all kinds of fun, so check it out.
I just might do that.
You should.
All right, Stacy, it's your turn to be inclusive.
Damn it!
No pressure whatsoever.
Last week, I started laying down the outline and architecture for an app, a random dungeon app, and it's which is we already have a bunch of them out there, but I wanted to create. I've done enough of these with the tournaments that I ran for Contessa that I want to keep doing. That each time I did it, I had to do so much handwork, and I had to change so many things, and none of them, I had to use like 3 or 4 random generators in order to get what I want. So I finally decided to actually start putting it together, and it's going to draw it dynamically on the screen, and if I can actually get it done, I should be able to draw dynamic caves and caverns and all sorts of little goodies. And I want to make it, my whole purpose of it is to make it so that it's web friendly, or that it's device friendly, so that the GM can have the map open and could hover over a room and it would tell you what's in it, rather than having to look it up in a key.
Oh, that's nice.
That's
Hover
awesome.
over a door and it tells you whether or not it's locked or unlocked and what kind of door it is. Those kind of things.
That drives me nuts.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah, no,
like
that's
they've already walked in and then you read the thing, you're like, oh shit, that door was
Yes,
locked.
right.
God.
I just automatically assume that all doors are locked.
You just automatically assume there's a giant toad behind every door.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. or gnomes moving furniture.
With the last contest, I actually made them color-coded. So each room had blue, red, green, purple, yellow, those kind of colors, and then it would coordinate to the actual key on both sides of it. If you were in another room, you could see it in there too, and then you would know the blue door is locked, the red door is not. But yeah, I want to make that even easier, quicker for you to be able to look at. And if I do it right, you'll be able to plug in. You'll have plugins for different types of games. I'm going to start out with Swords and Wizardry, and then I can move on from there. That game. And then make it kind of open source so that other people can add whatever they want in there too. So
It's nice.
I'm interested in,
Awesome.
and then that led me into building the ultimate GM note-taking app and or note-reading app more than anything, because I've used like 3 or 4 different kinds of things. I've used Scrivener, I've used OneNote, and I've used Evernote to try to keep my GM notes in some kind of organized way, and all of them are close but not quite. So I've started devising exactly what it is that I want, and I'm going to start building it. That goes back to, I think, make something that you want to use. Make something that does what you want it to do. And if nobody else likes it, then fine. At least I have tool.
There you go. That's awesome.
That does sound awesome, though.
And for mine, I'm just going to do a big positivity screw you to the nerd rage. And I'm going to say that my something cool is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because
I knew you were going to say that.
Because I'm tired of the bitching and moaning.
People are bitching and moaning about
Oh
it?
God, they've been bitching and moaning since like
People,
out
okay.
the gate.
The problem is.
Wait. Let me finish my thought, and then Okay. What I would like to say is for the people who gave up after 2 weeks, that now everything makes bloody sense because they were tying it into the Captain America movie, and it was like the Captain America movie came out, and it was like a curtain went up on the TV show, and all sorts of things suddenly made sense, and I'm like going, okay, this is cool because they are making this it's part of a bigger thing. And it's cool watching this TV series being, leading up to the events that were happening, and then watching these things impact each. I mean, the Thor. There was a bit of interaction with the Thor movie, but it didn't really impact the series. quite like the Captain America movie did. So, because of the Red Skull, of course.
Yeah.
For everyone that hasn't seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right,
Um,
so go ahead, David.
no, it's like a bunch of people. I've seen the same stuff, and a bunch of people quit. By episode 6, they just gave up, and it's really good now.
Yeah. And
You know,
now, now it's on top of it being really good. You're going to have to go back and watch all that shit because it's not going to make any sense.
Exactly. But what blows my mind is, the fact that people would give up after 6 episodes or even 2 episodes. It's like, do you remember the first 2 seasons of The Next Generation of Star Trek?
No, because I don't watch Star Trek.
Okay, well, they were pretty awful. It took 3 seasons for that show to find its feet. Deep Space Nine, same thing. 3 seasons before it found its feet.
It took a
And
couple
people
of seasons for X-Files, too.
took a couple of seasons for X-Files. Most TV shows have taken, especially like the sci-fi ones, it takes time for them to find their feet. And the fact that, so-called nerds and geeks wouldn't give it time to find its feet blows my mind.
Well, and it's like
Because experience tells them it's going to get better.
Yeah. Well, and it was like they were expecting Avengers out the gate. I'm like, it's a TV
There's no budget
show.
for that.
Yeah, there's no superheroes, there's no budget, and it's a frickin' weekly TV show. It's not going to be the Avengers. It's not going to be Iron Man. And I mean, to be honest, I mean, yes, it did have some bumps to it along the way, but
Sure it did.
It picked. I mean, it picked itself up fairly quickly, I think. And
Well, the character of Coulson was already well developed, so he was really fun to watch right from the start.
Well, and it was interesting to watch all of that kind of unravel over the last few episodes.
Yes.
So,
I think we should spoil it for everyone.
particularly the revelation, which, as much as I would like to spoil, I won't.
Nah, no, don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah.
It'll blow
You
your
get more people to block you.
Yeah, that's true.
No, it's
And then
really well done.
Then I just won't talk about their games to my social
I
network.
think we should have an ongoing tally of how many people have blocked each of us to see who manages to get the most.
I don't think anyone's blocked me, but
I think.
I know of one
just-
person that's blocked me, but he's such a reject, it doesn't really bother me.
And on that happy note, I should call close to another episode of Geeky Voices Carry. And will we still be nattering on about the topic of entitlement in gaming? Tune in 2 weeks and find out.
Or flame us for 2 weeks and find out.
Yeah, that works too.
Yeah.
if you want it, blame us.
Say goodnight, everyone.
Good night, all.
Internet.